Matt, in physics, how important is the shape and the placement of an object?
Well, as an astrophysicist, when I think of shape, I think of galaxies and planets and stars, and you see a lot of the most fundamental physics of the universe emerge on gigantic scales. For example, a spiral galaxy is a flat plane, it's a disk, as are the rings of Saturn, as is the solar system. And on the other hand...
They're flat? Are the rings, aren't the rings of Saturn, are they made of like rocks altogether?
Yeah, ice and rocks, but they're very thin. And the overall shape is disc-like, like a plate. On the other hand, stars, planets, moons, certain star clusters and types of galaxies tend to be more spherical. And the reason for these shapes is sort of a balance between the different forces of nature that are holding these things together. But those forces are driven by some pretty fundamental symmetries that kind of govern the universe. And those symmetries, which exist in such a more fundamental way than this giant collection of stars, shape the entire universe on its larger scales. So that's why shape is important to my field, I guess.
Yeah. And Natasha, is the same thing true in biology? I mean, does the shape and place of a cell change its nature and function?
Absolutely. It could completely change its identity. And there were fascinating experiments done and continue to be done on how just changing the shape of the cell, how the cell is spread, how it sits on the surface, how it changes not only how happy it is, but how it's functioning, but completely changes its identity. So for instance, so I really like this experiment where researchers took a certain type of tissue stem cells that can assume several different identities, and they put them on microscopic platforms, so just a single cell per platform. And these platforms had different areas. So for instance, a bigger and the medium size and a really tiny one. So on the tiny ones, the cells couldn't spread. They had to kind of like sit like this. And on the big one, they could sprawl comfortably like they wanted. And amazingly, the cells on these large platforms, they turned into bone-like cells. So cells that produce the bone material. And the ones that sat on the tiny platforms, they turned into fat cells because they couldn't spread, they had to stay round, and that influenced completely their identity. And the ones that were on the medium-sized platforms, they
the Goldilocks ones.
Yeah, the Goldilocks ones. They kind of couldn't, they stayed undecided, so they're like uncommitted. Yeah,
wow,
so
that's amazing.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Also proteins, the shape of proteins is a lot of what drives their function, right?
Exactly, yeah. Just a little bit of a disruption in the shape of protein could completely change its function, could destroy its function, or could give it a completely new, what we call neomorphic function. And that's another fascinating aspect.